off my screen here. There we go. And then we're also going to construct Helen White Court, which is going to be a 12-unit workforce senior housing complex. So we're in the process now of, again, due to COVID, we have some funding gaps. We're trying to close those up right now, but we already have the contractor selected. And as soon as we can close that funding gap, they're going to begin construction on that. I don't know how much time I have. If you wanted to go in some of the challenges that we're having, not only due to the economy, but just trying to create additional housing when we all know that. I think in the last recent study, and Joe may be able to go into this, is there were, just in Stanislaus County, we have about a 20,000 unit, shortage of just housing that we need here. And it's clear from our waiting list from people that are trying to find, affordable housing that, we have a total of 23,000 just on our waiting list, just with the housing authorities. So clearly we need some more affordable housing here. Our challenges is, and we've talked with state legislatures about saying, look at all the things that we were able to do when we had a COVID emergency. I think we're in a housing emergency at this point. It's time to start looking at some of the building codes, some of the different legislation that's out there and see how can we get housing built. So I know that they're working out on the state side. We've had our discussions with them about trying to open up and free up some of the money instead of, there's billions of dollars coming down for housing. Our challenge is that it's for specific demographics and populations that make it a little bit more difficult for us to make the projects pencil out. It hasn't been as much of a challenge for us to get funding to build new housing, new apartment complexes, multifamily housing. The issue that we find with the homeless population, or even affordable housing, is how do you build that, and then where do the rents come from to sustain it? Who can afford to pay a rent? In the Bay Area, if you look at some of the wonderful, beautiful tax credit properties, and you find it they're $500,000 to $700,000 per unit, and the rents are $2,500 to $3,500 a unit, people can't afford to just move in there. So where's the rental subsidy? How are they going to afford that? So our challenge is trying to look at ways to develop without using so much state and federal money that have a lot of the strings attached to those. How can we do it with straight financing, do your 20 or 30% down, or build it enough to where you don't have the debt structure on it, and then you can naturally keep the rents low to keep people, keep the rents at an affordable level. So I know that was kind of a quick summary and a lot of information. I think I had 5 or 10 minutes. I think I've maybe hit that. So I just wanted to go ahead and see if there was any questions, or turn that back over and see what our next step is.
Thank you so much. Very informative, very sobering, but incredibly important. We're going to have a second presentation covering somewhat similar ground, but does anyone have a question for Jim? I want to be mindful of his time with us.
Real quick, Jim, you said the Helen Trail Senior, where is that going to be located? What street?
It's on Vine Street. It's right next to the King Kennedy Community Center, right across the street. If you're familiar with the Vine and Martin Luther King.
Okay, I know where you're talking about. It's technically where the driveway starts.
Yes, yeah, we're going to be
on that vacant lot.
Part of the project will be completely redoing that section of Vine Street, and there'll be new entrances. It'll be a gated community for the seniors, and so it's a great location because it is right across the street from the senior center there, community center.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead with Richard, and then Jim, and then our next speaker.
Mr. Krause, the statistics that you provided, are those available online or through handout?
I can get you some. What I typically ask for is point in time, as again, these numbers change month to month.
Yeah,
we do have a lot of the numbers on our website under our board report. This is a standard monthly report where I'm getting some of these numbers. As far as the waiting list numbers, those do fluctuate. So I can get some of those for you, or I can get a handout developed for this.
That's fine, but I'll start with going on your website. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
Jim, go ahead.
What's going on with the development at the old Muni Golf Course? I know that's been lots of different ideas for that. What's going on with that as a possible housing area?
That's kind of in the city's realm. We're not working on that project now. We have had some discussions, but I don't think that there's anything concrete yet.
Jim, really appreciate your time with us. If there's anything that you would want to pass on to our larger faith-based list, anything that either you want us to know or anything that we could be supportive around, you mentioned, legislative action. If there's things that we could be involved with, please don't hesitate to send me that information. In addition to everyone who's on this Zoom meeting, there are a few other dozens who get our emails. I'm not sure what they do with them, but they receive them. And so I'm happy to keep the information flowing.
Sure. No, absolutely. I'd love that. I think the big push right now is just we're in a housing emergency in this state, and we really need some attention focused to it.
And I appreciate that you're sharing that information so we can be involved in the response to that. We also have with us Joe Duran from the City Development Corporation, and Joe's going to share a few words and then hopefully take a question or two as well. Go ahead, Joe.
Great. What a privilege it is to be with all of you. I see many of you that I know. Good to see you all. Got a props to the Housing Authority and Jim. He's been a phenomenal advocate and just they're a real jewel to our community. So I think they definitely need our prayers. So I'm a part of Stanislaus Equity Partners. We're a new organization. We're actually a community development corporation that got started about 7 months ago, and it was an outcome from the community foundation as well as some other community leaders. They had commissioned a study and to try to determine what was missing out of our economy to help move forward. And so it was part of Brookings Institute that came in and said, you're missing a community development corporation as well as a community development financial institution. So I retired about 2 years ago after being the CEO of Self-Help Federal Credit Union. I had been doing that credit union for about 35 years. We had grown to about $1.5 billion in deposits with over 100,000 members, 36 branches, the largest community development financial institution in the country. And but as I was really doing that work, I was not a part of really bringing value to this community, I did not think. So I retired a little bit early and then started stepping in a little bit to what's happening specifically in the housing crisis. So the result of that is we did get funding. We got a $5 million grant from the county, and we're able to start on, hit the ground running. So this is, the vision is for us to, let me move this out of the way here, to create a county where all residents are able to participate and thrive in a life with hope and dignity. And our mission is to empower Stanislaus residents with access to asset building opportunities through housing, small business services, and affordable lending. So a lot of the things that Jim had talked about have been real barriers. Without capital, without affordable housing, where do you go from there? And so we're really trying to solve that, or at least address that and try to study it. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. Let's see here. So a CDC is a community-based organization, and basically it's set up to undertake economic development efforts and offer programs which benefit the community. And in a real sense, it's embedded in the local community and determining what the needs of the community are by really investing in the community, talking to the community, serving in the community, and then bringing their needs, their voices to the local power structure. So instead of individuals going out from the power structure and saying, okay, this is what the community needs, it's imperative, we believe, that the community has a voice and saying, this is what we need, right? This is what's important to us. And so some of the statistics there, there is, if you take a look at your earnings data, only one of the top 10 available jobs pay median wage over $26.14 an hour. And 66% of individuals below poverty are in this county were working. So a livable wage is incredibly important, we believe, into the sustainability of just about anything in our community, especially in the area of housing. And again, there's disparities disproportionately affect households of color, who are 2 times as likely as their white neighbors to be living in poverty, and about 1.5 times as likely to be one medical emergency or car repair away from an economic crisis. Been working a lot in West Modesto and South Modesto. For example, South Modesto does not have any kind of emergency services. And so we're really taking a look at how that, how we can change that landscape. Also, there is no financial institution in South Modesto and now in West Modesto. So we are really assessing and trying to find ways of taking a look at that. So let me get into the housing side of things. So, our current pipeline right now is we're looking at backyard homes. We're trying, we got a grant from the Community Foundation to be kind of a one-stop shop. We're trying to address how can individuals develop backyard homes. And trying to go through, and Jim, I think would attest to this, the funding that comes into the cities and the counties and then understanding how they can be utilized is almost impossible right now. So it's like all of a sudden funding comes in and then rules come afterwards. So we're having to really sort through and try to become as much as an expert team and identify how can we leverage county, city, state, and federal monies so that we can bring the cost down in order to basically make it affordable to build a backyard unit. And the next one is tiny villages. We have 2 churches. We're building, getting ready to build units on their property. These would be, and I'll get into the details on that. Also, multifamily development. We have an 8-unit apartment complex. We have an escrow right now that we're going to be offering services through BHRS, Behavioral Health Services. We're going to take in their clients. And then we've got Stanco that's going to go ahead and kind of manage the program for us. And then small business services. Okay, so backyard homes, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We've done a lot of studies about what we can do in the area of backyard homes. There's modulars, manufactured. The reality is these types of things cost about $300 to $325 a square foot. Not doable based on, what we're looking at. They're beautiful, and we actually have a couple of companies that are going to be doing prototypes here in Stanislaus County. But we're really pushing to try to get the cost point down to about $150 a square foot. So we're really working on that right now. So the properties that we're really working on right now, these are them that we're using at the church sites. These are being built in the prison system. We have a relationship with an organization called R3. I sit on their board out of Monterey County, and we have a relationship with the Department of Corrections. And through the vocational programs, they are enlisting individual inmates to apply to go into this program. And they're getting time off as they work on this, plus they're getting certification, and they're developing a skill set. And so this particular model here was built at, I can't think of the prison right now, but I think this is a 600 square foot. And so we're able to basically do these units and get them for less than $100,000. And so, which is about $100 to $120 a square foot, which brings us the levels back down to, they become somewhat affordable. And the unique thing for us is we're able to help the homeowner, or in this case, the churches, come up with the initial funding. So we do the construction loan, which we do at about 2.5%. And at the end of the time period, we find out if there are subsidies that are available, and we are finding out that there are subsidies that are available, especially on the 2 churches that we're working on, which I'll show in a minute. And then we have the 2 credit unions, the CDFIs. We help to get 2 local credit unions, which is Valley First Credit Union, as well as Rolling F, which is Foster Farms Credit Union, to offer 2.7% fixed rate loans on these, on these units, or as you begin to add them up. So it really comes back down to affordability again. Our price point right now is we don't want individuals without subsidies, just without subsidies, to have to pay more than $900 for 1 bedroom, $1,200 for a 2-bedroom, and I think it's $1,500 for a 3-bedroom. When you add subsidies to that, you really bring the cost to make it affordable. When you bring interest rates down, you bring the cost down again. And I think that, we think that's been one of the missing components. is really trying to get affordable funding so that individuals can get into these types of units. So I'm going to go down to here. So this is a current project we have going on at Free Will Baptist Church. I hope Pastor Chuck didn't mind me sharing this. But this is our plan right now. We plan to put in 8 different units on that particular property. And so if you take a look at this, there's going to be 2 600 square foot 4-bedroom units, 4 400 square foot 2-bedroom units, and then 1 4-bedroom 800 square foot unit. And so we're getting ready to put our prototypes on those by next month. We're going to have 2 that are going to be on that site that we're going to be able to, show individuals exactly what they have, what they're able to do. And so the plan is that that this particular church, they decided we're going to go ahead and give them the financing up front. They're going to do the build out. We're advocating and working with the city right now to get subsidies to offset the total costs of what this project is going to be. Let me give you an example. The project, let's say, is $800,000, and we're trying to get 50%, minimum 50% subsidized, so that then that becomes a $400,000 project to the church at the end. So the costs on that generally will work out at 2.75, at a level where there's plenty of spread that's available to the church to bring in back-end services, wraparound services, and then also to do, take care of the facilities as they move forward. Let's see here. Let me go to the next slide here. So really quickly, this is our current staff. We're birthed out of City Ministry Network. I'm still currently the Chief Financial Officer for City Ministry Network. And we've got person next to the end there, that's Luke Grover. He's a general contractor. And then the other gentleman there is also prior to general contractor. And then we just have a phenomenal staff. So I'll close with this. When I was working at the credit union I was working at that time it was called Self-Help. I'm sorry, it was called Community Trust. I had about 40 employees, and we had 3 branches, one in Modesto, one in Riverbank, actually 4, one in Stockton, one in East Palo Alto. I was pastoring at the same time. I was bivocational, and I helped start a church in Escalon. And so I came to a cross point in my life where it was like, Lord, I don't know which direction to go in here. I can't, the Holy Spirit really works strongly through my wife, right? She said, you can't do this anymore. So it's one of those things where, trying to develop the capacity. As I began to pray, I really had a sense that God was going to call me to really being the pastor there at the church. And one of the reasons why is because I paid less, it seemed to be more sacrificial, this kind of the bent, sometimes that I think that we go through. And I was really surprised when I really felt incredibly impressed that the Lord had called me to pastor the credit union. It was extraordinary for me. It was the year 2000. And so I began to look at the credit union, what I was doing as my pastorate, and the individuals that I was serving, which are low to moderate income families, as my congregation and my staff, as being part of my staff to fulfill that. And the scripture that really pointed me toward that is Micah 6:8, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. He has shown you, old man, what is good, what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. And so in doing that, my team was able to, as I said, grow from the $50 million in deposit in 2020 to the $1.5 billion in deposit. And that was not coincidental to the reality that we really focused in on, direction God was taking us in. So we're in self-discovery right now. We're really trying to determine, where the opportunities are, where favor is, how to do it in a justice perspective. Our whole focus is low to moderate income families. And we are advocating for our local community in many, many ways, but in particular in the area of housing. If we can't solve or begin to put a dent into this housing disaster, potential disaster, where are we going to move as a community? I mean, this is such an important issue. Homelessness, we have. One of the areas that I have always wanted to focus in on is to try to prevent people from going into homelessness. So really focusing on that has been our primary goal. Transitional housing is really important, as individuals have been prepared to come out of homelessness, to give them a place so they can go into transitional housing and then set them up for permanent housing. So that's our call. That's what we're attempting to do, and we're at it. So with that, I guess I will take a few questions.
Joe, thank you so much. We have gone over, which makes sense given the importance of this of the information. Let's take a question or two, if there is one.
Hey, Joe, this is Wayne. I don't have a question, but my old church on Sutter Avenue has an acre, behind the parking lot where there's just weeds.
Yeah.
And True Light Church, they're on Wade. They have open land as well. The problem with both sites is that we're in a county island. So there's sewer. So that would have to be resolved. But there's at least those two churches in West Modesto, there's acreage there.
Yeah, I mean, I could really get into that deeply, maybe Wayne, you and I could talk, but somebody asked a question earlier about, that was relevant to it, but there's $50 million right now that the county is sitting on that has been positioned for streets and lights, curbs and gutters, and we're in the middle of that right now, trying to really push forward on that. But I'd love to talk to you, Wayne, about, I think there's a solution to that.
Good. Richard, why don't you go ahead with your question?
Joe, thank you very much. And also Jim. Joe, I would like you to speak to the previous Jim's question about the Muni golf course. What do you see for you in this piece of land?
So I've been working with the city for about 3 years on that particular piece of property. And they have been slow playing it for 3 years. They're going to be coming up here, I would say, probably within the next 6 months, we hope, with a decision of moving forward. We are in line right now in talks with them so that, whatever housing component is going to be available there, we want to basically put our hat in there to try to provide what we call workforce housing. It's interesting. When you call it low-income housing, people will fight you. We have communities that you go in and you say, we want to bring in low-income housing. They said, not in my area, you're going to do that. But then I'll flip it. I flipped it. And I went in and said, we're going to do workforce housing. Everybody was like, yes, this is amazing. So it's just, again, finding the narrative. So really competing, not competing, contending for it, and being an advocate that the right types of development take place there. We really are strongly advocating that not-for-profit end up, having that particular site so they can try to contain costs as much as possible.
Joe, thank you foremost for listening to the and doing what you're doing. My question is, the backyard homes, what's the square footage that is allowable to put in a backyard home these days?
So that's a great question, because there's so much of an opportunity right now. Mm-hmm. So the county right now is working with all the cities to come up with a comprehensive plan. That is what's slowing things down. But the consensus right now, because it goes from city to city, the consensus is going to be 850 square feet. And if you build it for under 850 square feet, excuse me, you don't have to pay the major fees that are normally associated with building. It'll cut out about, up to $25,000 to $30,000 in fees. So that's the key. The other key is if you're doing it for low to moderate income housing, a certain level, there's subsidies that will be available. And so we're lining all those up right now. We've got two houses right now two backyard houses that we're working on so that we understand the whole process. So, especially in our unincorporated areas, they have big lots. You're able to do lot splits. You're able to do accessory that's called not just a backyard unit, but a junior backyard unit. There's almost no such thing as an R1 lot anymore. So, a lot of changes.
What is the average size or the required size? 11,000 square foot parcel, 10,000 square foot parcel?
It's based on how much has been built on the particular parcel already, and then it's a percentage of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, it's amazing how much available space. Infill is really the strategy that we're really trying to take a look at as being one of the most predominant ways of trying to alleviate part of our issues here. Taking lots and learning how to split them, and then do a primary unit plus an additional unit on that, and do it in a way that's that is really thought through.
And so no 2-story or 3-story at this time?
No, it's interesting. You can ask and you'll get 3 or 4 different answers.
Okay.
So that's why, we've got 2 full-time staff studying this. We're studying every bill that's coming through. We're studying, every funding opportunity that's available. And so we believe that we'll be ahead of the curve in regard to where the county and the city is. I meet with the county and the city probably 2 or 3 times a week, as does my staff. So we're ongoing, really trying to figure this whole thing out together. Well,
Joe, let's do lunch before I get in trouble with all these questions.
Joe, thank you so much. You're certainly welcome to stay, but I imagine you may have other duties to attend to. Before we move on, Teresa, anything you wanted to add or let us know, since you've been joining us as well?
I just would like to say thank you for inviting the Housing Authority, and it's a pleasure to see the folks that I know on here, and it's nice to meet everyone who I haven't. So thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for sharing on this important topic and helping to make this possible.